Hey everybody, welcome back to the Print 3D channel. We have a package here from Gearbest and we're going to open it up and check out what's inside, so stick around. A huge thanks to the following people for supporting the channel. Hey everybody, welcome back and thank you for joining me here on the Print 3D channel. Recently, a representative from Gearbest reached out to the channel and wanted to know if we wanted any products for review on the channel. And of course, they'd send us these products at no charge, so we are not being paid for the unboxing, the review, or our opinions. We do get to keep these items, but we are not being paid for the actual reviews. So of course, they gave us a little budget to work with, and the first thing we were able to get is the NEJE, N-E-J-E, I'm guessing it's NEJE, DK-8-KZ laser engraver. Now, I've never worked with this kind of tech before. I'm really not familiar with it at all. So I don't even know what we're going to get in this box. I'm pretty sure this is similar to the one that Jimmy Shaw opened up on his channel, which was a very small desktop laser engraver. And from what I've seen on the description over at Gearbest, that's basically what it is. But again, I've never used this tech before. I'm only used to working with 3D printers. But I'm really anxious to try this out because it's kind of like a variation of the 3D printer, except for you don't use the Z-axis, you just use X and Y to draw out your patterns using a laser. So that's very cool. So I'm really anxious to open up the box and check this out. So let's get to it. So let's go ahead and open it up. Now, like I said, I'm pretty sure this is the exact same laser engraver that Jimmy Shaw got on his channel because it looks like the same one. I haven't watched the video in a while, but I'm pretty sure it is. It's wrapped in this white plastic, so headphone users, I'm really sorry, but I have to get this off. I wanted to show you guys the total unboxing. And I didn't open it to check for spiders this time, so hopefully there's no spiders in it, but let's get started. Now, I really like the idea of the laser engraver, and I know there's been some variations on 3D printers that have actually put pens and laser engravers on the 3D printer and using G-code to use it. So I'm pretty familiar with the operation, and I did read about this actual laser engraver before it arrived. It took quite a little bit of time for it to arrive, actually almost a month. But there is some software that I need for my Mac, and I'll show you all that information once we get it out of the box, but it probably won't be in this particular video. It just depends on how long it takes us to get it set up. So let's go ahead and open it up and see what's inside the box. This plastic off. Like I said, sorry headphone users. Cut this off. Yeah, mini engraving machine is what it says on the box. So you can see on the sides here. This plastic off of here. This came all the way from China, so that's why the plastic's on it, and it took a little while to get here, of course. So let's open it up and see what we got inside. Let's actually see what it says on the box. It does say 1000 MW, which I'm guessing is milliwatt. I guess megawatt would be a little bit, I'm not exactly sure, so you guys can correct me down in the comments if I get any of this terminology incorrect. But other than that, it says DK8 Pro 5, and that's all it says. It doesn't say actually which number it is. Okay, here it is, DK-8-KZ. So it says right there, and the QC sticker is right next to it too. So you can see that I guess it passed QC. So let's open it up and see what we got inside this box. Like I said, I'm really excited about laser engraving and this kind of technology because it is a variation of kind of like the way 3D printers work. So this is something I'm familiar with. But again, I've never used one before, so this will be fun to try out. And I'll share all my results with you guys on the channel, of course. So first off, we have some styrofoam. I'll show you guys. Sorry, I don't have an overhead camera. I'm only using one camera today. And a little piece of styrofoam. We'll get that out of the way. And right underneath it is the laser engraver. And there's a box next to it, so let's get this box out if we can. There we go. So it looks like we have a little box of accessories. So let's open that up and see what's inside. I'm sure there's some sort of README information in here that we need to check out before we do anything. So we'll probably want to get that out right away. I don't know if you guys can see that. So we have the first package I'm seeing. It looks like we have a marker, a USB cable, a hex key, and some samples of materials. So that's pretty cool. So we have material to work with. And the glasses, very important, safety first. And we have some software, which is interesting. I'm sure this is all Windows. I'm almost positive it's all Windows, but I don't use Windows, I use a Mac. And we have a user's manual. So that's really nice to see in the first box, the accessories box, that we have a lot of information here too. So let's check out this little user's manual real quick, and let's see if there's any information that we need to do to unbox it. It just says how to use a Windows computer, start the software, troubleshooting, about the laser head, a little bit of FAQ in the back, and some maintenance. Okay, so that's that. And then we have our goggles, safety goggles. So get those out of the package, check those out. Yeah, they didn't break. Let's see how they look. Oh yeah, everything's green. That's pretty stylish, eh? And again, the accessories package. Looks like this is a Ziploc. Oh, it is a Ziploc. Awesome. So we have a USB cable and looks like a power cable. And we have a marker. And we have some substrates to work with. Looks like we have a little piece of, looks like rubber of some sort. A little sheet of cardboard, a couple sheets of cardboard style, and a couple pieces of wood. A really tiny wood block. And of course our hex key. So that was what is in the accessories package. That's pretty cool. Let's get that out of the way. Let's get that out of the way. And let's check out this laser engraver. Nothing else in the box. And here it is. It is tiny. It is super tiny. Compared to the G-Max sitting right next to it. I could probably print about 10 of these at once on the G-Max. Let's get all the styrofoam off. And it's plastic. Sorry, headphone users. Looks like it's saran wrapped on here. Let's see if we can find the end. There it is. Looks like there's a sample already on the little bed, the laser bed. I'm going to flip this over carefully. I don't want to break anything. I don't see any loose hardware, and there's nothing falling out of the package, so that's good. There's all kinds of QC stickers everywhere. There's plastic, nothing fell out. So here is the laser engraver. And that's pretty cool. And as you can see, there's a sample which looks like a butterfly print on the little laser bed there. I guess that's what they call it. And it looks like it's all taped together nicely. There's nothing loose. This looks pretty cool. Let's see. I have some scissors here, so we'll be able to remove the tape and not scratch anything. And not have to yank it up and leave glue marks behind. Let's see if we can get this. There seems to be a rubber band on there too to hold it down. They put the tape right across the sample and it did pull up a little bit. It says machine test okay, turned into a butterfly cocoon. I don't know if you guys can see that. It looks like on the back, it looks like they did a laser test on the back of the cardboard as well to test to make sure the laser was working at full focus. Interesting. The burn just kind of rubs off, a little blackness on the finger. It does smell like burnt paper. Let's get that piece of plastic on there, or that piece of tape off of there so it doesn't end up on the print bed or on the laser bed. There's a piece of styrofoam there. Another piece of tape wrapping around. Goes all the way in the back. Okay, so we've got that tape off and that piece of styrofoam. Let's discard that. Stick into my fingers. This is pretty cool. I'm really excited about this because, like I said, I've always wanted some sort of laser engraver. I've seen quite a few of them in the market, some large-scale ones, and I thought this would be a good starter unit to get me familiar with the operation since it's so small. Looks like this will unleash the laser head. Let's get that off. Again, sorry, headphone users. All right, there we go. Oh, we got another piece of styrofoam behind the laser engraver. All of it's off, no remnants behind, nothing left. So I believe that is it. It's actually a pretty nice unit. It's made of acrylic. All the screws seem pretty tight. There's a, looks like to be a cooling fan above the laser. It's very interesting. It's like an acrylic board on the bottom with two rubber bands on it to hold it. And there's a screw that goes forward and backward that controls it. And there's very tiny motors everywhere. Compared to the G-Max, this is so small. I'm so used to seeing something larger. But it's very cool. It looks like we have a USB and power on this side. And there's a panic button, stop button. I did see that in the instructions. And I think everything looks good. I think it's ready to plug in and see how it works. So let's go ahead and get set up, and we will plug this into the Mac, and we'll head over there and download some software that we do need to use to run this particular item, because these are set up for Windows particularly. But there's a little community over on Instructables that has all the information that we need to get this laser engraver up and running on our Mac. So we'll be able to do all that. We'll test out some prints. We'll test out some laser engraving. We'll try our first. We have some samples here to play with before we move to the wood. Obviously, we'll use proper ventilation. We'll definitely use our safety goggles, and we'll go over the instructions. Even though they're set up for Windows, there might be some important information in here about operating the laser engraver. So we'll get that all set up, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes. Okay guys, so here we are on the Instructables website, which is what I found that gave me all the information I needed to run this particular laser engraver on my Mac. And I've already opened up the different windows for the different pieces of software we're going to get. And of course I do have the window open here for the Gearbest website page that features this particular laser engraver. So if we go back over here to the Instructables, there's a nice detailed instructions here on setting it up, opening it, getting everything ready for it, and there's actually some links to buy it. Now some of the information here, like this particular section here, this D-Beam app, I had a lot of trouble finding this app and I actually gave up. It looks like it's been pulled from a lot of different websites. To start off, I wanted to get the Mac software all set up so we have all that stuff ready, so when we plug it in, then we'll be able to do a test laser engraving immediately. So I went ahead and downloaded all this different software that I need. Apparently I need an OS driver for the WinChiphead CH340 serial bridge. And this will allow me to use, I'm using High Sierra on my Mac, and it'll allow me to use a USB bridge, serial bridge, which will give me the ability to plug in a USB port to the printer and be able to connect to it and talk to it using the serial bridge. Now that's the only information I can find. Of course you guys can correct me down in the comments if I get any of this information wrong. I'm learning as I'm going. But I did notice that this is available for High Sierra, which is great because that's the OS I'm currently using. The next bit of software we're going to need is the actual software that drives the laser engraver. Now this is an app that was been developed by this Andy Q, which is basically a replacement for that, what was it called? Geez, I can't remember already. We'll go back here, the D-Beam app, D-Beam app. And this was basically rewritten with a lot of more information, and you can see down here, he actually talks about it. This is the OS, there is an OS X app called D-Beam available. However, some functions don't work with my DK-8 movement keys, and I wanted a little bit more flexibility over image importing. So he actually created this app, which we're going to use to connect and control the laser engraver. So we needed this. And we also needed the actual Mac OS X driver. And this is being used for the chipset from what I understand. I'm just going to install this stuff. I'm pretty confident it won't do anything to my Mac. I've never had a real problem with it. Anything installed so far working with random programs off the internet or even off GitHub, so I'm pretty confident and I don't see any problems. Nobody's saying anything like, hey, don't use this. So I'm basically going to just install this stuff and get it going on the Mac, and that way we can start doing some of the applications that are, or some of the procedures that are described here on the Instructables page. And I'll put the links for everything that's here on the Mac that we're going to download and use for using this laser engraver down in the description, so you guys can download these yourself if you're also on a Mac, or if you have a solution available, you can leave that in the comments and I may change direction and use your suggestions as far as how to drive this little printer. I don't want to go out and get a Windows PC. I know I have a laptop around here somewhere. I just don't want to use it. I want to use it on the Mac because I know it's possible, because Macs pretty much can run anything. So we've already gotten our software, so let's head over to the desktop. We'll open up our download folder, and this is the software that was actually on the Gearbest website, but as you can see, it's an exe file, which means it's for a PC. So I'm actually going to pitch that. And I've got the 3 things that I think I need to download. I have the exports here just in case. So I'm going to bring those over to the desktop. We'll close out of our downloads folder and get rid of these screenshots. So let's go ahead and open up our packages from GitHub, and we'll get those opened up here. And here's our chipset driver. Get that open. We'll get rid of these zip files because we don't need these anymore. I don't believe I need exports. Let's head back over to Chrome. Let's head back over to Chrome here real quick. We have the signed Mac serial driver. We have the Laser Engraver software, and we have the OS X driver. So I think it's 2 pieces of software. I think this exports was for if I wanted to run Windows. So let's go ahead and open up this package, and let's see what we got inside here. We do have a README. I don't know if I'll be able to open this or not. Okay, so I'm not exactly sure how to install this. So let's go back over to Chrome, and let's see what we need to do here for the Laser Engraver software. Here's a disk image. I think this is what I actually need. So let's just go ahead and download this. Sorry for the delay here and the poking around. Again, I'm not familiar with this tech, so this is all new to me. So let's go to our downloads folder, and let's grab the NEJE Engraver disk image, and let's try this installation. I believe that GitHub package that we downloaded was all source code, and I believe you would need to compile that to actually get it to work. Yeah, this looks more familiar. We can go ahead and do the same operation as you would for most of the software downloaded for a Mac. You can just drag the application icon, onto the application shortcut, and it'll copy it into your applications folder. So here we are in the applications folder. Here is the NEJE Engraver. So let's make a desktop shortcut so we can access it from the desktop. And let's go ahead and double click and see what happens. And this is a standard security acknowledgement on the Mac. It's very similar to what you see on Windows. It's just making sure that you want to actually open this. Okay, so it looks like our software has launched, and we will need to connect. So what we're going to do from this point is we are going to head back over to the workbench, and we are going to connect the Laser Engraver, and I'll adjust the camera so you guys can get a close-up view. And what we'll do is we'll record from the desktop of the Mac, and I'll also shoot a close-up video, and we'll add that in editing so you guys can see the operations of the Laser Engraver. I think we're pretty good here. We just need to connect our USB devices. So let's go ahead and do that, and we'll be right back. Okay, so we're back over here at the workbench, and we're going to take a quick look at the user's manual, because between shutting off the camera the first time and installing the Mac software, I did take a little bit of a quick look at this, and there is some information in here we need to talk about really quick. There is some use of the buttons that are on there, and they did have some information about taking it out of the box, which was basically the unboxing part of it. They called it the prepare section and how to use it with a Windows computer. But there is some information here I wanted to share with you guys because I thought it was important. It says copy the CD or SD card files to the desktop. Now there wasn't an SD card. We did get the CD, which I believe is the Windows software. And I don't believe there's an SD card reader on this. I believe you have to run this tethered at all times. So if you're running a Windows machine and it does a Windows update, it's going to stop it. The same thing would happen with the Mac. If there's some sort of interference with the Mac software, it might cause the printer to stop. So you do have to run this tethered. Now there is some information about adjusting the focal length, which is what the hex key is for, I believe. And that is adjusting the small metal geared tooth piece here where the laser is. And there's some other information about connecting it to the Windows machine. But as you saw, we are using the Instructables instructions from their website because that looked like it was a very successful running of the laser engraver for the Mac environment. So I thought that was a better set of instructions to follow, even though I did take a look at this just to make sure there wasn't any information we were missing. But this is all mostly directed for Windows computers. So what we're going to do is we have the software running on the Mac right now, and I have it recording, and I'll probably put that somewhere in the screen here so you guys can see it. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to connect this thing and see if it actually works on startup. So what I want to do, first of all, is put a piece of substrate down on the bed, and if the laser pops on, for some reason, it doesn't burn the bed right away. So I'm just going to put this down. Now it is a little bit bowed, so maybe you should turn this over. So the flex part, so it's not bowing upwards, because we don't want it to burn through it or cause any problems. Now these are just rubber bands holding down the substrate. I believe you probably should use something a little bit more secure than rubber bands, but that's how the unit comes. So we're going to go with how it's set up originally from the manufacturer, and we're going to check it out. So I have a piece of substrate down on the laser bed there. You can see it. And let's check it out and see if there is an SD card. I don't think there is. It's a really small board inside there, a really small control board. And I don't know if you guys can see that, but I'll put some close-up images of the actual unit at the end of the video here so you guys can see all the beauty shots of everything. But I have some USB extension cables here coming from the Mac, and we have our cables. So let's go ahead and plug this in and see what happens. I'm very curious to see, because in the Instructables video, he basically just plugged it into his MacBook Pro and it started to work. Now, there may have been some preparation that was done before the video, I don't know. But I'm showing you guys everything live, even my missteps back there on the Mac, where it turns out that you could just get the software all ready to load on a disk image instead of having to recompile it with Cocoa or some other compiler on the Mac environment. So we have our two connections that are going to go to the back of the laser engraver, or the side. So let's spin that around so you guys can see it. So our power, and here's our USB connection. So we have both of those on. And just for safety's sake, now I don't know if the laser is going to pop on or not, and I don't know if my smoke detector is going to go off or not. I wanted to open the window, but it's pretty noisy outside. I do have a fan going in the hallway, so hopefully if it does start making some smelly, burny smoke, it won't set off the smoke detectors. But you guys will see that live. Well, sort of live, it's recorded. But either way, I'm going to go ahead and put on these safety goggles just in case. Now these are a little bit small for my head. I don't think they actually go all the way behind my ears. And I can see, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and plug in each of these USB connections. And we are going to see, of course I can't see through the goggles that well. So let's go ahead and do that and see what happens. Now bear with me here. You know how USB cable connectors are. You put them in one way, they don't work. You put them in the other way, they don't work. You flip them back over again, and suddenly they work. Whoop, there it goes. I can see the little laser point, the little focused point. It's pretty sharp down there. I don't know, can I pick this thing up? Are you guys going to tell me I did something crazy by picking it up and showing you guys? But I don't know if you guys can see that. It's a really tiny laser point. I have my goggles on because I wanted to make sure that there wasn't any kind of reflective material anywhere in the area of the laser, so if it reflected off into my eyes, and that would have been a problem. So I'm going to take these off. I hope I'm doing this right. Okay, well, I'm not going to look at it directly because it is still pretty bright, but you can see the laser there. And if I go back over to the Mac, and let's see if I refresh my connection. I don't know if it's working or not. So what we're going to do is we're going to head over to the Mac, and I'll set the camera up over here on the laser engraver, and we're going to do some stuff on the Mac and see if we can get this to start engraving. So we'll be right back. Okay, so clearly I was having some issues connecting the NEJE laser engraver to the Macintosh, and I actually struggled for a couple hours with it. I actually downloaded the Wine app and tried to use a PC emulator to run the software, and it still would not connect. So what I ended up doing is digging out a Windows machine and installing the software and not having any problems whatsoever. So once I got the laser engraver running, I started testing some of the files. Now, the software that you can download from Trustfur, and I'll put that link down in the description, has everything you need for the PC. It has the Carver driver, the actual driver, which is your USB to serial bus driver, and it also has the NEJE driver software or Carver software, which we have loaded up here on the PC. So what we ended up doing was running a few test images, and the package that you download from Trustfur actually comes with a whole folder full of images that you can use to test out the laser engraver to make sure it's working. So what we did is we started running a few tests, and I'll have some close-ups of these so you can see them. And the first thing I did was I actually tested the function of the laser engraver. And there's a red button on the top of the engraver that you can hit just once, and it'll start doing a test band, which looks like this. This came with the laser engraver down on the laser bed, and it actually tests out the laser strength, which actually I didn't need to run the whole thing. I just wanted to make sure it was still working. And of course there's a butterfly, which we showed you earlier in the video. So the first thing I did was I ran out the tiniest image I could just to make sure it was working. And it's this little tiny little guy who's dabbing, and I'll give you a close-up right now on the corner so you guys can see this actually close up. And it turned out perfect. I was super happy with it. So the next thing I loaded up was the butterfly, because there's quite a few images in the collection. And that turned out awesome. As you can see in the close-up, all the edges are nice and clean. It's super crisp. It only took about 15 minutes to laze, so it was a really easy laser engraving on this really thin substrate of cardboard. So I wanted to test out a couple more images that were in that collection, and there was one of this little funky looking guy, and I dropped the laser time, the burn time down to, I guess the burning time down to 10, and it really didn't burn too well. So I actually hit the redo button in the software, and it just reburned it again and it still didn't come out as dark. So I knew I'd have to up the time to a higher, or that resolution of image was just too thin to work with. But I wanted to play a little bit more with the NEJE Laser Carver software, and there's a little type editor, which I'll show you guys in a minute. And I typed in some words, and I typed out pew 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 for the laser engraver. And it actually printed out really nice. It's really crisp. I'll show you a close-up here. It turned out super, super crisp. All the little lines are really even. There was no little misfiring or anything. It was a nice burn. I had this at, I believe, still at 10, so it's a light image. And I just wanted a quick laze to show you guys just how easy it is to use the text editor. And it was really easy to use. So the next thing I wanted to do was take my Print 3D channel logo, and I had already run out of the thinner substrate, so I wanted to move to the thicker stuff. And I wanted to use something that I made myself. So what I did is I dragged one of the images from the sample folder over into Photoshop, and I reset my logo type, and I designed it so it would look good on the little laze, and I set it up to print out on the thicker, or laze out on the thicker substrate, and it actually turned out pretty good. Now it took a little bit of effort to get it there, but before I go any further, let's head over to the software, and I'll show you how I set this up, and we'll get this little laser going, and I'll show you a time lapse too of how this actually turned out. And I'll talk about some of the things I had to do to get this to actually work on the thicker substrate. But let's head over to the PC, and I'll show you how the software works.
All right, so here we are on the desktop of the PC, and I went ahead and installed the software that we need, and I went ahead and installed the driver that we need also, which comes in the package, which you could download from trustfur.com. And I'll put that link down in the description so you guys can download the software package. The other thing that comes in the package, besides the Carver driver and the actual driver for the USB to serial connection, is a folder full of sample images, which I've copied to the desktop here. And I have the executable file for the actual laser engraver software here on the desktop as well, so we can access it pretty easily. So when you double click, first of course you have to connect your laser engraver to your computer via the USB cables provided. And I did use a different cable because I needed a little bit length. The other cable works fine, I just needed a little bit more length, so I had another USB cable laying around. So that's the one I used. But anyway, if you double click here on the NEJE engraver image, it'll connect to your laser engraver, and it should take a few seconds. And this is the interface for the laser engraver, and it's actually pretty intuitive. You can do a lot of things in here. You can send your image right to the machine. It's a drag and drop type system. You can do this locate mode, which will recenter the laser engraver. So if you hit rectangle locate over on the laser engraver, it'll actually go over and do the laser area from which you can engrave in. It's your like maximum laser area. So it's a pretty cool little function. And you can also pause it, and that'll just stop it. And you can hit center locate, and it'll recenter the laser engraver onto the center of the platform. You can also enter in text here, and that'll give you the ability to customize and do your own drawings or add text to an image that's already on your laser engraver area. So if we go over to that desktop shortcut here full of the pick sample images, and if we scroll down here, you can see there's a nice selection of images that come with the laser engraver to test it out. And of course, I've added the Print 3D channel logo here as a JPEG, so we can go ahead and start using the laser engraver with that sample image, something I created in Photoshop. So let's go ahead and drag that over. And it'll ask you to choose an image, and I've seen this come up in both times. Now, one of these has kind of a rough edge, and this one has kind of a sharper edge, and I'm guessing that this is kind of a low-res version of it, and this is more of a high-res version of it. So we're going to go ahead and pick the low-res version because we just want to quick engrave. Now, in my experimenting, since I've gotten the laser engraver, I use a burn time anywhere between 10 and 20. Now, the substrate that we're using is the thicker piece of wood that came with the laser engraver, so I'm going to bump this up to 15, and you can just do that here in the slider. And then the only thing you really need to do is send the image to the machine, which will download it, and you can see it happening over here, and there's also a green progress bar. And when you're ready, you just hit the start button, and the laser will automatically center itself and draw out the box of which it's going to do its lasering, and we'll start the process. So I'll go ahead and hit the start button here, and I'll set up a time-lapse camera so you guys can see this thing do its thing.
So once I got everything loaded up in the software and I sent it to the little NEJE laser engraver, the first thing I had to do was adjust the focal length for the laser. Now that's a little bit difficult. I have really large hands. Now I know over on Thingiverse there's a small collection of additional parts you can print out for this particular model, including a new tray and a little knob to put on the laser engraver focus knob to make it easier to hold on to. And I'm definitely going to do that. I'm going to experiment a lot more with this little laser engraver. It's a lot of fun. But what I had to do was actually focus the laser point for the thicker substrate that I was going to do my engraving onto. And that took a few tries. What I ended up doing was just running the print or running the image onto the laser engraver and let it start going for a little bit. And if it didn't look like it was a good focus or it was at the right focus length, I'd stop it and start it again. And once I got it at the right where I thought it was going to do a good burn, I also increased the burn time to 30, which is the longest I've ever done. Now the actual laze for this took about 28 minutes, which isn't too bad, but considering the substrate and everything else, it actually turned out really, really good. And I'll show you guys a close-up. Now you can see a little bit of a defect by the P in the Print 3D channel part of the logo, and those are the few times that I started. I think I actually bumped into the substrate while I was trying to focus it. And that's the only thing that I had a little bit of difficulty with, was changing substrates, because again, you have to change the focal length so it can actually focus on the pinpoint on the little substrate that you're using so it can actually burn properly. And of course, with a different substrate I was using different from this thin cardboard, it was going to take a little bit more effort on the laser to actually burn into this wood. But it actually turned out really, really good. Like I said, it took about 28 minutes at 30 on the burn time. And I actually made this logo in Photoshop, so it was a really easy work. But other than that, I am really happy with the laser engraver. Even though it took a little bit of time to actually get it connected to a computer, which I was really hoping it would be connected to my Mac, but I'm sure I can find a solution for that. I was just in kind of a hurry to show you guys, and of course we were recording, so I wanted to make sure it worked out of the box. And that would be the typical user workflow, would be somebody who was a Mac user who had purchased this, would want to make sure it worked on their Mac, and if they didn't have a PC. But if you do have a PC, which I did have, it's a real easy setup. It literally took only 5 minutes after I struggled for a couple of hours trying to connect to the Mac. But it does say when you purchase this that this is PC only. And of course, if you use some sort of emulator on your Mac, you will get it to work properly if you set it up properly. But like I said, I wanted it to work out of the box. And again, setting it up on the PC was no problem. Like I said, I'll put the link down in the description for Trustver, and that's where you can download the software for this particular model. And they actually have all the different models of this particular maker of laser engraver. And actually, this is a really good deal for $73 currently on Gearbest. you get this really cool laser engraver. And it comes with all the things you saw earlier in the video, including safety goggles and the tools you'll need to make the adjustment. Now, going through the manual, I did find out what this marker is for. It's actually when you're doing like a plastic or something that's clear and you want it to laze, it may not have, even if you focus it properly, the laser may not focus properly on the substrate, especially if it's clear. It may actually diffract the light. So you just take this dry erase marker and you rub it on there, and it'll actually put your pattern down like it's supposed to, and you just have to clean it off. So that's pretty handy. And this little rubber piece is for when you mount this on the bed, you can use this for sticking down objects that aren't flat, like say a spoon or say a shot glass or a pencil. You can use this to stick it down. It's got some sticky to it on both sides, so it adheres to the bed and also gives you something to adhere to with the object you're trying to write or laser engrave into. Now, I didn't try the big thicker piece of wood. I stopped at this piece because I figured I'd had a good selection of laser engraving for a good first impression, and that's what basically this is a first impression of the NEJE Laser Engraver. And it gave me a good idea of how this actually works. And like I said, for $73, I think this is a really good deal. You can get this on Gearbest, and there'll be a link down in the description. And of course, that's an affiliate link. And if you purchase this laser engraver through Gearbest, through that affiliate link, a little bit comes back to the channel. It doesn't cost you guys a penny, and it really helps out. And the more sales we get through Gearbest, the more cool tech we'll be able to review and unbox on the channel and show you guys. So if you guys want a really cool starter laser engraver, I really highly recommend the NEJE Laser Engraver from Gearbest. And like I said, there'll be a link down in the description, and it is an affiliate link, but it does help out the channel and it doesn't cost you a penny. So my first impressions of the NEJE Laser Engraver are excellent. I think this is a really cool starter laser engraver. According to the manufacturer, you should be able to engrave on not only wood, but plastic and leather. And I've seen some really cool tips and tricks on YouTube about using this exact same one to go on glass. And there's even some really cool stuff on Thingiverse for making adapters so you can put pencils or different kinds of metals. Now, for laser engraving on glass or even plastic, I think you need a higher intensity laser. This is only 1,000 milliwatt. But for $73 at Gearbest, and like I said, there's an affiliate link down in the description, I think this is a really great deal. If you're looking to get into laser engraving and you want a really cool starter unit, the NEJE Laser Engraver is probably going to be your best buy. Well, that about wraps it up for my unboxing and first impressions of the NEJE Laser Engraver. I hope you guys found this episode interesting and informative, and if you're looking for ways to support the channel, check out that Patreon link and all the affiliate links down in the description. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, comment, like, and share those videos, and I'll talk to you guys soon.